Who was the biggest asshole you ever met? My younger self. Was selfish and rude. And a liar. My stepsister. She posts stuff on Facebook just to make people angry and then goes crying that she's a victim and that we should all feel sorry for her. She used me for that drama and got her birth mother in on it and then turned and did the same thing to her. Fuck you, L. I lived with this old dude for 5 months. He is the worst person I have ever met. Housing is hard to come by in this town and he seemed nice enough when I first met him. But I did have a strange feeling about him. Should have gone with my instincts. He used to blow up if I left a single hair in the sink/shower. I tried explaining I'm a girl with long hair. Sometimes it falls out and I don't see. He needed to know if I was home every night. But it was fine when he disappeared for a week without saying anything. The only conversations he ever had were about how everyone else were idiots. You know, he never did anything wrong. He once squared me up, although he is a very short guy. So I just kind of looked down at him and laughed. Said to me, "You're just another fucking Australian in this town." The family my friend lived with found out I was living with him and got me out of the house immediately and let me stay with them until I found new housing. Because they had dealt with him before and knew he was just a horrible human. And lastly, he didn't give me my bond back for the house and threatened to take me to court because per our verbal agreement I had to give him 2 months notice to move out. This asshole parks in between 2 handicapped parking with his old ass Mercedes. I went to school with this guy and almost every day he would sneak into the girls' locker room. One day we told a teacher and instead of him admitting it, he blamed me and my friends. The authorities were contacted and every girl in the locker room had to testify against someone to the cops. I don't know how many years he got, but I hope he's still rotting. One of my friends looked him up online. Apparently he molested some of the girls, so he has a long time in prison. Didn't catch the exact amount. I never met this idiot, but after my cousin died in a car accident where he was next to the driver survived and came to my uncle's house few days afterwards and asked for cousin's guitar since he won't need it anymore. Biggest asshole I ever met that I didn't actually meet, but bear with me, was actually a Canadian in Canada. Years back during her divorce my mother rented a condo. No big deal. Job, easily affordable, etc. Set up through a realtor. So I flew into town to get her moved in. Landlord even called to introduce himself and gave his cell phone for any issues that came up. All seemed fine, except for his request bordering on demand that she provide a year's worth of signed rent checks for him to just deposit. Not in the contract and technically illegal, which I assume is why he made the request directly via phone, which she refused. Fast forward 2 or 3 months and he claims to not have received a rent check. Weird, but it happens. So she cancels it and then sends a new one overnighted with signature service. Someone then tries to cash both checks. Next month, the mailed check miraculously doesn't arrive again. So she does the same. And again someone tries to deposit both. My mother has been keeping me appraised, so I helped her set up one of those payment services where her account is debited and a check is mailed out automatically. Lo and behold, they don't arrive again according to him. However, this idiot cashed them. Since the payment service knew they'd been cashed, we got not only the cancelled check back with his signature and account info, but they were able to obtain the surveillance footage from the ATM he used, showing not only his face, but his license plates. This goes on for months with him claiming the money is owed and threatening eviction and all this nonsense, despite us getting a cancelled check along with his ugly mug each month. My mother, being tough as nails, just ignored him and started looking for a new place, assuming he was bluffing and not that stupid. Hey, you can't try, I'm on Freer. My mother gets served with an eviction for non-payment and attorney's fees. We hatched a diabolical plot to let him hang himself. He had filed an affidavit claiming all this unpaid rent without knowing we had irrefutable proof he was lying. I had an attorney all lined up, but we held off on his notice of appearance until literally 10 minutes before the hearing. His shithead attorney tried to get a continuance upon realizing my mother wasn't pro SE, which makes me think he was in on the scam. It took the judge all of 5 minutes to go through the pleadings. strike his affidavit, and refer the matter to the state attorney's office. To cut a long story short, he ended up being ordered pay my mother's legal fees and punitive damages, which the bastard welched on. Fortunately, my mother's attorney refused to let her pay a penny for his time. He was criminally charged with bank fraud, mail fraud, perjury, and some other stuff. Ended up being extradited from Canada and took a plea deal with fines and some prison time. A prick I used to work with, skinny short guy with acne and glasses, that was the biggest kiss ass I've ever met. Our boss encouraged us to call him by his first name. This prick would call him boss. I pointy, you got it boss, or I'm a massive bell end boss, hope you still love me boss. Anyways, we both got in at 7 and everyone else started at 8. It was a slow morning, so we were both on our phones playing Hearthstone. At 7:55 our manager came in. I didn't see, but the prick did. I got given a little heat for being in my phone, but it was nothing serious. Prick then proceeds to say, sorry boss. I tried to tell him to not go on his phone, but he wouldn't listen. Are you trying to get punched, little prick? Nicholas, best friends for the whole of my high school life. He continuously stressed how he was worried I would abandon him and find a new friend group at the new high school for the last year of school. I promised him it wouldn't happen. Come grade 12, we hang for about a week before he finds himself a friend group. He begs me to sit with them and I do. They're all male and I, a female, feel as I don't fit in at all. They mock me and ask why I'm there, and Nicholas never stood up for me. 2 weeks of that, and I befriended his twin sister who had just moved down from another town. Her and I hit it off. We are now sitting buddies. Nicholas spreads rumors that should never be burdened upon to a teenage girl. I can't handle it myself, and police get involved. School recommended it, since they failed to suppressing his tall tales. I believe he made the rumors because he was jealous. It upset me. Years later I still only have one friend, a best friend, since the rumors made others avoid me. That friend is his twin sister, and oh boy does he hate it. She knows he's making rumors, since he was dumb enough to tell her the truth. Fuck you, Nick. My current boss, he is an old, rich, divorcee who takes pleasure out of insulting his employees. I unfortunately found myself in a situation where it appeared I was at fault, yet I hadn't done anything wrong. And after yelling at me, he said, you have a long life ahead of you, along with a lot of failure. He's called other employees animals, stupid, and once told a worker to kill himself. I can't wait for the day where he suffers a heart attack and drops dead. A guy that lives a few miles away from me. I was probably 9. Riding my bike on the road, very rural. Anyways, my chain broke, so I walked back to my house to get my dad to help me fix it. Come back, cannot find the bike. We walked up and down the road for so long thinking we missed it. Sometime later, walking or on a scooter or something, I then found my bike in the back of this guy's truck. I walked up to the door to let him know I was taking it. Long story short, he played finders keepers, berated me for being so loose with my possessions, and then showed me his gun. Eventually, my dad came and got it. Hate that guy. My current stepdad, hands down. Dude is awful. Regularly initiated screaming matches with my mom. I almost punched the smirk off his face one night when he just kept calling my mom a whore over and over. I moved out the next day because I realized I was right on the cusp of actually murdering the guy. I'm not sure how to describe it, but when you live with someone that awful for so long, it breaks down all your mental barriers and tickles some primal part of your brain where you just imagine what it might be like and how good it might feel to physically hurt them. I know that makes me sound like a psycho, but you just don't know until you've lived with someone like that. The screaming, the name calling. There was never a single trip out to dinner, to a relative's house, etc. that didn't end with him picking some kind of fight with anyone or everyone else in the family, especially my mom. Every weekend like clockwork he would start a fight. He also drove home from their club nights drunk many times. Such an awful person that his biological children refused to have anything to do with him for years. And on top of being the most vile, evil person I know, somehow he has managed to outlive so many other people in my life. that were 300% better, kinder people than him. It's like he survives on pure spite or something. Meanwhile my grandfather, an all-around good dude who did a lot of charity work, set up a scholarship at a college in the town he lived in, etc. Randomly got smacked with bad cancer and died within 2 months of the diagnosis. So on top of this guy being a massive shit, he's also a constant reminder that the universe is unfair. That said, he is now living the life he deserves. His life of bad habits, chain smoking, drinking, no exercise, etc. has caught up to him, and he's pretty much an invalid stuck on a couch. He can barely walk 2 paces without getting winded or falling down. He's incontinent but won't use diapers, so the poor nurses at his PT end up having to clean up after him on the regular. I keep trying to tell my mom to ditch him in hospice, but I think she's not ready to move on from that part of her life. I don't know how I feel about the idea of karmic consequences, but I do know I don't feel bad for the man. You reap the life you sow, and even despite all this, he still manages to pick fights with my mom, his now primary caretaker, on the regular, even during Christmas, after he shat himself. But at least then he was wearing a diaper. Thank God. If you think I'm being cruel, understand that he brought all of this on himself. He constantly bitches and moans that he supported so many people in his life, but now he's all alone except for my mom, because nobody will support him now. Yeah, if you're at the end of your life and nobody gives a flying fuck enough to visit you when you fall down and end up in the hospital for the 48,482 th time, not even your own biological kids, that's on you, bud. My mom's abusive boyfriend we lived with for 2 years. Guy was one of those fake pillar of the community pricks in public, but behind closed doors he was a monster. He finally got his comeuppance when my mom didn't call the police during one of his tirades, but instead called the pastor of his church, who happened to show up minutes later. His social standing was fucked, and we moved out right away. Scarred but still alive. Fuck that guy.